Hi, this is Dr. Ann DeSantis with the St. Raymond Nonnatus Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith. This is our 12-part podcast series for adult children of divorce. And the topic of this podcast is modesty. And we're actually toward the end of the series, and we have a whole lot of other ones that we've done so far. So, for those of you who are just tuning in for the very first time, be sure to subscribe to our Philly Nonnatus YouTube channel, where you can see and listen to a lot of different topics, not only for adult children of divorce, but all kinds of podcasts for families in crisis, because that's who we serve as a foundation. So, before we delve into this topic of modesty, I thought I would read the catechism definition from the Catechism of the Catholic Church. And this is from number 2521. I'm reading it right here for you. It says that purity requires modesty, an integral part of temperance. Modesty protects the intimate center of the person. It means refusing to unveil what should remain hidden. It is ordered to chastity, to whose sensitivity it bears witness. It guides one's looks at others and behaves toward them in conformity with the dignity and persons and their solidarity. Wow, that's a lot to digest, isn't it? And that's what I'm going to do on this podcast, is just try to explain to you why this virtue is important. Now, before I do that, my audience is you who are watching adult children of divorce. Maybe you're someone who has been affected by divorce. We don't always get adult children of divorce that watch the podcast. We get all kinds of people who are going through all different things, but it's a good general topic for anybody, really. But when you've grown up in a family that has suffered divorce or separation, sometimes there is a loss of faith. It happens quite often. And I've seen that in the years that I've been working for this nonprofit. And I myself am actually an adult child of divorce. And speaking with so many people over the years, I do think that all of those virtues of our faith do come into question when people are involved in some type of a crisis. And divorce and separation certainly is a crisis of faith. Especially when we're thinking about those younger people who are maybe high school, college age, or young adults. I believe that modesty is a very important factor for them, but really for anybody of any age. It doesn't matter how old you are, whether you're below 18, whether you're way above the age of 30, 40, 50, 60, it doesn't matter. Modesty is an important aspect of who we are as humans and how we can live out those virtues. So, looking at the definition, we would ask the question, why do these virtues mean something to all of us as people who have gone through crisis? Well, when we've gone through something like an adversity in a family, like I said, many times we question our faith. I have seen many families fall away from mass attendance and fall away from the sacraments of our faith, such as confession. And even really in being virtuous people, it really comes into question. And that one of modesty is one that every day when we wake up in the morning, particularly when we get dressed in the morning, right, we can question ourselves and saying, am I wearing something that really reflects the love of God in all that I do? And really, that's what modesty is all about, is remembering the Lord in all of our actions, all of our words. Modesty isn't just about our outer appearance. It's also about our words. And are we humble about ourselves? Are we people who really understand that we are children of God, and that we all have a responsibility to love and serve others? It's not just about me or you, right? And about what makes us happy or joyful in our lives. It is about serving other people. And when we keep that in mind, a lot of those virtues sort of fall into place when we put others at the center, and God, of course, really at the center of our lives. So modesty, as I said, it's in word and in action. But I thought we would spend a few minutes talking about the obvious, right? The obvious would be the way that someone dresses. Why don't we start out with how we dress for mass? Because I do hear that quite a bit in this work that I do, is that when we come into God's house, we are to, obviously, we want to reflect who we are as children of God. What does that mean? For guys, doesn't mean that you have to wear a suit and tie. It would mean that you have to dress appropriately. You would have to dress modestly, right? You don't want to dress messy. You want to make sure that you have a belt on, right? I hear that sometimes, making sure that, our clothes are nice and secure, right? We also want to make sure that we're not wearing like a logos or insignia. A lot of times, sometimes I'll go to mass and I'll see people that wear, the Nike shirts or different things. We are trying to wear things that aren't kind of distracting to other people and even to the clergy who's there doing the mass. So remembering to be modest in all ways and neat. That's a really big thing too. What we're talking about going to mass. For women, I don't think that necessarily means you have to wear a dress or a skirt. People who attend Latin mass, of course, they wear veils, and that's a common thing, and that's an appropriate thing. You don't have to wear a veil, but you should dress modestly, right? You should make sure that your necklines are appropriate, your skirt lines, nothing is too tight, revealing, all of these things. So important when you're going to mass, whether it be Sunday mass, daily mass, or anything to do with church. And for that matter, really, these are guidelines that go for everyday life too. I mean, if I'm going to dress a certain way for mass, right? I should be, or we should be dressing that way for daily life. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to be all dressed up. Maybe when you go to mass, we will be wearing a dress or skirt or a suit or a nice pair of pants or something like that. You don't necessarily have to dress like that in your everyday attire, right? I mean, I work from home. You see, this is my home office right here for the foundation, and I am dressing casually. Got a collared shirt on, and I do have pants on right now. But what it is just your dignity, right? It's our human dignity that we're displaying to others who are around us, whether they're people at home, whether they're when we go to the store, who we hang out with. And for that reason, I would also like to talk about social media, especially for those younger people who might be watching this, those adult children of divorce. And, I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook, but sometimes when I'm on some of those social media platforms, unfortunately, I see things that I don't want to have to see. Young ladies and guys sometimes, displaying themselves in attire that is inappropriate. I'm sure you who are watching have seen the same thing. And that's why we're talking about modesty. And let's go back to the catechism just so that we can unpack that a little bit more. It says in number 2522 that modesty protects the mystery of persons and their love. It encourages patience and moderation in loving relationships. It requires that the conditions for the definitive giving and commitment of man and woman to one another be fulfilled. Modesty is decency, as I said. It requires one's choice of clothing. It keeps silence or reserve where there is evident risk of unhealthy curiosity. It is discreet. I think that's a great word. It's discreet. So why are we seeing certain things on social media and, people who want to kind of display themselves in an inappropriate way? And if you think about that, younger women and younger men who are dressing like that for social media or just otherwise, and maybe they are looking for some kind of like relationship. Well, in my humble opinion, and I think in the opinion of the church, it's not being done in the right way because you're not going to attract the kind of people that you really want in your life long term when you're dressing like that, when you're making yourself or appearing that way for all to see in public. So I just want to make that shout out to younger people. And if you're watching this video, you want to send it to somebody else with that message, is that the Catholic Church really does teach that we are to live dignified lives and we should be modest, right? It is part of temperance. It's one of those cardinal virtues, temperance. And so when we do that, we are really honoring God. It is a great gift to God when we dress appropriately. And so I would just make that question to all of you who are out there is, take a look at your own wardrobe and maybe, I'm taping this at the beginning of the year in 2025. Maybe it's time to go through that closet and decide what you need to get rid of. I think that's some good words of advice, not just for you, but for me, for all of us, right? Like I said, modesty is something that is really for anyone from birth all the way up until the time of when the Lord takes us, right? We should all remember to be chaste and modest in our ways. Now, how do we do that? Well, one of the ways I think that we do it is by prayer. When we pray, when we offer ourselves in prayer to the Lord to be virtuous, to try to live out the virtues of our faith every day and the gifts of the Holy Spirit, we can only do that by the grace of God. We really can't do anything without God's grace. And so take it to prayer, take it to adoration, go before the Blessed Sacrament and ask the Lord, how can I become more modest? And I want to go back to my audience again, those adult children of divorce. It does affect people like you and people like me, because, like I said, I'm an adult child of divorce too. And sometimes when we come from families that have gone through those adversities, like I said, we do lose faith in some ways. And we do have to really go back to square one with what is virtuous and what is not virtuous in our lives every single day. Also, I want to make a shout out to parents. Remember to teach your kids. It's never too early to teach kids the virtues, especially modesty, because I think these days, young men and young women are being tempted, right? And the clothing choices out there and a lot of the clothing outlets, the clothing stores, whether online or actually in stores, aren't very good. And so we need to find places that will help us to find clothes that are not only fashionable, right? We want to be fashionable, but not too revealing. So I make a prayer for all of you too, because it's not an easy thing to do that. It's not an easy thing to find the right style for yourself. And I know that Ascension Press has some very good books on fashion and modesty. So I would invite you, just go to their website. I think it's ascension.com, but they have some great authors there who might be able to offer you some advice for fashion and how to live a better life, chaste life, modest life. Now, the bottom line of all of this is that we live in humility, right? When we love and serve others, when we realize that our lives aren't just about us, sometimes when I look at social media and I see not only individuals, but parents too, putting their kids out there for all to see. Maybe it's a prom season or something like that. And I think you who are watching might have noticed that some of the attire that high school kids, especially for those proms, aren't always exactly modest. And so be a little bit different, right? Not always do we have to be like everybody else in terms of hemlines or clothing choices, things like that. But just do a good research out there. There are plenty of companies. If you just key in modest styles, modest clothing styles, you'll find some websites, I'm sure, that you'll be able to find good clothing that you'll like and also is fashionable and it is also modest. So this is a little bit of a shorter podcast, but I want to invite all of you to go to our Philly Nonnatus YouTube channel and subscribe. If you go to our website too, we have some great resources at nonnatus.org. We offer prayer, priestly consultations, podcasts and videos, and programs and events. We have retreats coming up in the Philadelphia area in 2025 and beyond. Be sure to stay in touch with us. Also, check out our outside resources page on nonnatus.org, which is a helpful resources page that has a lot of information there. Even if, like, say, if you're looking for a good Catholic counselor or something like that, whatever your issue is, we have something there for you. So I'm wishing you a wonderful 2025. Thank you so much for tuning in here at the Philly Nonnatus YouTube channel. Again, my name is Dr. Ann DeSantis, and our ministry is pastoral outreach to families in crisis through the charisms of the Mercedarian religious order. God bless, and we'll see you next time. We are the first Tuesday of every month at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. See you then.